It's an honor to be here with you, and I just want to say how we were really touched at FP 2020 that you conceived of this session as a partnership session. And when you invited me to be here with you today, it was within the spirit of demonstrating both how we're all working toward the greater good and to show the depth of this commitment and to also demonstrate how it is that we've organized ourselves to really be complementary toward the same goal. And I was struck that by the panel this morning, the word I think they said more than almost any other word was leverage. And I think this is a great opportunity to really continue to build on these relationships and demonstrate how we're leveraging the work of everybody, including the partnerships toward these shared goals. So I just wanted to thank you for inviting me to be here with you today. So with that theme, being where we are in FP 2020, we see these, the power of these partnerships every day. It's at the core of the desire of the community to have an initiative like FP 2020 where it provides an opportunity to connect the work at every level, both from the country up to the global, from the end user, from the client, through the government, to all of your organizations and the work that you're doing. And it gives us, I think, an opportunity to look deeply into what both partnership means and to build something together that allows us to expand beyond what we can do individually or within our own institutions. So it's an honor to be a part of that initiative. It's been 4 years, as we all know, since the London Summit, when we took that ambitious goal of reaching 120 million women and girls. We all know, though, that this goal is much, much more than a number. And I think it's important that we repeat that frequently, that when we talk about expanding access, that we remember that there are real people with real needs, as Perry spoke about so eloquently this morning, behind all of these ambitions. And indeed, I think I find that in all of us, that we're motivated by that fact to continue to work and to continue to build in our most constructive ways. And that the SDGs provide us a new opportunity to do that, a new framework for keeping that essential need and those essential human rights at the heart of all of our objectives as we work toward building a more sustainable sector within a more sustainable world. So expanding to contraceptives, again, it's never been just about health. It's always been about people. And here now, it's fundamentally about changing the status of women and girls. It's about including and embracing within society that we need to respect the bodies, the minds, the aspirations, and the lives of each of those people. And John and I were talking a bit after the first panel as well, that when our colleagues from outside the sector were talking about the client and how the client's needs drove delivery issues and drove their business, and how sometimes it can be a challenge to get to the individual, because when we're talking about supply chains, the client is often a government or it's a provider, and that within that continuum, pulling in the individual and the needs of the women and girl can be a little bit challenging sometimes to get to when we're thinking about systems approaches. So I was just thinking about how central that is to the work that we're all here doing today, is through those systems approaches, trying to make sure that we're pulling in the needs of those individual women and girls. So we're here at the midpoint as well of FP 2020. It's been 4 years since the London Summit, 4 years to go. It's been a process of assessment for us here at the midpoint to see what it is that we've learned and how we can move forward. We recognize every day that the efforts that have taken place since 2012 are really building on all of the work that all of you have been doing for years and in many cases for decades in order to bring us to this point of partnership and collaboration and moving things forward. So we have an opportunity, and one we've been taking through the Secretariat, through the reference group, through the broader partnership, to do assessments. And I think it's incumbent upon us to do this all the time without being too disrupted by it, to look at what's working, what's not working, to make those changes in order to be more effective along the way. So we have made great progress since 2012. More women and girls than ever before now have access to contraception. We're getting into regions that have been the farthest behind. Fatimata C is here with us, and the Ouagadougou Partnership just celebrated a few months back that they had exceeded their goal of reaching an additional 1 million women and girls within the 9 Francophone countries, those countries that have been the farthest behind in reproductive health indicators and indeed in many development needs. And so realizing we have great partners here that are working in the hardest areas with great optimism and enthusiasm to really tackle some lingering systemic issues, I think is really inspiring to many of us. So we're hoping for, that this progress over the last 12 months will help us ultimately to surpass our goal. FP2020, as many of you know, releases an annual report every year. We're planning to do so in a few weeks. It'll talk about this effort of progress and getting closer to or being near what's really an incredible number of 300 million women and girls in the world's 69 poorest countries that now are using or have access to modern contraception. That's an enormous group of people. It's an enormous obligation. I think it's something to be proud of, that the work that you've all done for so many years is bringing us to the brink of that moment together. But it is, again, a moment of reflection to realize how we take what we've done and really begin to push that forward. The RHSC, all of you make these critical contributions to the success, and you've shown incredible intelligence and I think commitment to the partnerships within this coalition to build and transform the sector for these women and girls. And I take inspiration from the work that you do every day, and we hope that through the FP 2020, we're a conduit from these discussions as well, another source of moving information forward in order to make sure that we're progressing and leveraging these relationships as we can. So our work, I think, is making a difference in this world. Again, there are tens of millions of women and girls who are now using contraception, and we've accelerated that need, but we remain short on our goal in terms of measuring our benchmarks of progress toward 2020. We're off track. We remain a bit off track. The good news is that while we've been doing this work, we've been learning along the way what more we need to do in order to leverage these opportunities. But we do need to pick up that pace as and where we can. It means building on the momentum we've created, scaling up successful interventions, dedicating additional and sustainable country and donor resources, and working to advance quality of care and embrace this rights framework that ensures that women's voices are heard and heeded throughout all of our efforts. The richness of the data that we now have enables us to peel back the layers of where we're working and to study the situation on a country-by-country basis. What emerges is a strikingly varied landscape of progress. A number of countries have registered immense gains in contraceptive use. Other countries are just starting to experience these gains, and some countries have seen slow growth or appear to be stagnant. The data process is guiding advocacy as well, which is fabulous, and we have new evidence that provides, that strengthens the arguments for advocates in providing civil society that effort to persuade governments based on compelling and shared information to do the right thing at the right time for all people. This knowledge is part of the toolkit that we take into the second half of the FP 2020 initiative. We also bring with us a deeper understanding of how family planning services reach or fail to reach specific subpopulations of women and girls. The evidence base is growing for a wide range of issues and interventions, including and critically youth-oriented approaches, method mix diversity, the impact of rights-based programming, postpartum family planning and other high-impact practices, and implementation costing. The resulting insights can help us shape more effective programs, investments, and policies to reach women and girls with the services they need. With 4 years remaining to reach our FP 2020 goal, the platform through the Secretariat and the partnership has been optimized to reach or to help countries and partners absorb the lessons learned and to accelerate progress. The partnership continues to, again, our governance structure has been reoriented to be more supportive and to bring those leveraged partnerships to the countries and to help expand that access as they're supporting, or support them as they expand access to more and more people. We also, as I mentioned, have a reference group, which is an 18-member governance body overseeing FP 2020. They meet twice a year, and this year, for the first time, we're going to be in East Africa. And importantly, we have aligned our meeting with the Global Financing Facilities Investors Group. So across a week, and this is coming up at the end of October, both of these boards will be together. We'll have an opportunity to explore the critical issue of financing. We're going to be looking top to bottom about what we know in terms of financing for family planning, including contraception, what we don't know, to try and evaluate where we can make some changes in terms of how we gather information about expenditures so that we can create greater transparency. If we don't know what things cost, we can't appropriately plan to deliver. So we're hoping that this meeting will help both the reference group and the organizations that work therein to better understand what those challenges are so that they can then challenge themselves to make some changes around that, to build toward greater transparency for all of us, and then critically to consider the global financing facility, what's worked, what hasn't worked, to be hearing from each of the countries that are on both of those boards about their own experience so that we can learn as the GFF potentially expands what we might do better over time, including critically CSO involvement. And there, must applaud the RHSC and the group that's been working to really push for civil society involvement in and visibility into the Global Financing Facility. In meeting with the Secretariat to prepare for these meetings, the GFF Secretariat, one thing that they talk about repeatedly is how the family planning community, more than any other community, really made their intentions and their desires heard. We know there's still room to improve outcomes through the GFF for family planning, but the collective effort of this community really had an impact, and they know that they can't really move forward now without this community watching and ready to comment and support their efforts to be more productive. So I'm excited to see what bringing these two boards together will bring, both in terms of greater knowledge from all of us about what the potential is and what the impact has been for the financing facility, and from them, or from us to them, about why family planning remains such a critical investment. So, again, as a collaborative platform, we do sit at this unique nexus of global, national, personal, and institutional efforts to expand family planning. And as John mentioned, there are now over 90 commitment makers to FP 2020, including almost 40 commitment-making countries. Together, again, we foster a culture of shared dialogue, which is so critical to advancing our progress and to ensuring that the partnership continues to flourish. We have as well a new country support team at the Secretariat and through the broader partnership that's working more closely than ever with countries to support their efforts to own and drive their plans and their programs. We are now had a second round, and Jillian joined us on our first focal point workshop a year and a half ago, and now we've had a series of 3 regional focal point workshops, which have really proven to be an exceptional opportunities for both the countries and the country teams to sit together and to think about their programs and processes, to meet with technical experts, but critically to learn from countries within their region as well, the sort of shared understanding of where progress can be made, how to move forward. And I think to remove some of the feeling of how difficult this can be when it feels as if you're struggling alone within the context of your own country, within your own program, recognizing that others are working on those same issues and then creatively learning from one another to solve similar problems, I think is a really unique opportunity that we're just beginning to see the impact of across our work. The London Summit again emphasized and called for human rights principles to be the foundation of all family planning activities, including those on generating demand for unmet need and improving quality of care. And for a lot of the programs that we're looking to grow, those are the key issues and ones that we're going to be focusing on moving forward. We're also looking to support youth. You know, when we think about the Sustainable Development Goals and the concept of sustainability, it has to be with the needs, the perspectives, and the partnership of young people at its heart. And many of our partners within FP 2020, including SIF and the Gates Foundation, are really working with us to build those partnerships and these opportunities in positive and constructive ways. So that brings me back to RHSC and our issues here around supply chain. The coalition has been a driving force, as you all know, in the FP 2020 movement since the London Summit and since the very beginning. And John has been a leader within FP 2020 as well, both on the reference group and as the co-lead of the Market Dynamics Working Group when we had that group as a part of FP 2020. We've since decided that leveraging this relationship with RHSC was a better structure in order to have a more positive outcome, and John's been an incredible partner since then in ensuring that we stay aligned while we're moving toward similar goals. Both of our organizations bring together multilateral and bilateral organizations, and all of you here in the room, in order to collectively move forward. But today, the coalition in FP 2020 must continue to focus on these synergies, and we're looking to all of you and this session and over the course of the next couple of days to share your perspectives on how we can do this work as effectively as possible, where there are opportunities maybe that we haven't thought of, innovations, better ways of collaborating. We look to all of you to help guide this relationship as well. So that's where I want to thank all of you as well for your partnership and your guidance. You know, at this midpoint, I've suddenly, been thinking, how is it that we use these next few years to build toward what we want from FP 2020 and this collaboration? FP 2020 is through 2020. But as we work toward that time, we have an opportunity to consult with one another and decide together what this community wants as an opportunity for collaboration after 2020. And if we do that smartly, then we can orient the processes we have now toward that time and that goal. And I think I welcome this kind of an opportunity today because I think it helps us to take steps toward that kind of collaboration. So we look to your partnership in not only using the time that we have between now and 2020, but also thinking about how we build for the future in a way that's going to meet everybody's needs. So I thank you for that partnership. John, I welcome you to DC. As somebody who's moved many times as well, I know how disruptive it can be, but the arms are open in Washington to welcome you there as well. We're really excited to have you nearby to work with more closely. And I want to thank you for your partnership and your friendship. Thank you. Thanks.